enough, I've been struck, affected by her smile, and her style is worthwhile. Love sick. And now I'm love sick.
8 weeks of competition in the Mobil Super League have left us with just 4 teams now. Today, the first of the semi-finals. Hello, I'm Steve Rebillard for ABC Sport. We're at the State Sports Centre in Homebush, and in a moment, Sydney Electricity Hotshots will be playing ADELAIDE Contax. All teams played 7 lead-up games, with Sydney finishing on top with 12 points from Garvel and Melbourne, who'll play in our second semi tomorrow morning. Contax were 4th, then Sutherland, Brisbane, the Australian Institute of Sport and Perth. Well, we've met a lot of the players during the season. I think it's time we met the coaches. And Carol Sykes, your Sydney girls have only lost 1 game, but they've played a couple of heart-stoppers as well.
They have, but I think we're reaching our peak right now, and this is when we want them to be at their peak. So I'm really pleased that they had that couple of losses, and I'm pleased that one of them was to Contax, because I think that we'll get revenge tonight. What's been your emphasis at training this week? I think mainly to sort of, we had a light training because we had a couple with the flu, but they're come back strong, and I think we've sort of worked on defence mainly down court and sort of getting it all together. It's a matter of getting their minds right at the moment. I think their skills are there. It's just getting their minds on the job and trying to, get their minds on tonight and not tomorrow night. OK, we'll see what's happened shortly, but Mark Angove, Contax coach, as Carol mentioned, you're the team that has beaten them. What's the trick?
Well, we'd like to repeat that performance, Steve. I just think that we're a fairly even team, and I think the whole contest tonight should be like that, but we'd like to remember how it happened. The situation is a trifle different. Last time it really didn't matter. Tonight is the one that really counts. Last year you probably had an easier passage to the final. Do you think the competition this year has been even tougher? Oh yes, and I think it's just been absolutely tremendous this year, and every game's been hard. Top teams have got beaten by teams that aren't in the 4 and things like that. It's been truly a terrific competition. So we're really excited about being here and very, very confident. Let's have a look at the lineups then. And for Sydney Hotshots, no surprises, Nicole Cusack, Sue Kenny, Maxine Brunelli, Carissa Dalwood in the centre, Gillian Hine, Sharon Finnan and Keely Devry. The defenders have been doing a good job all season. For Contax, again, as you'd expect, Julie Nichol and Sarah Angove, the goalers, Nicole Washington, Shelley O'Donnell, Vicky Neal, Kath Harvey, the skipper at goal defence, and Sarah Sutter. Well, Anne Sargent, Sydney have been beaten, but not often.
No, you're right, not often. As you say, Adelaide Contax are the team that has shaken them. But I think if you look at them player for player, Sydney are more complete and the more experienced of the 2 lines. The area that I think they have it is that they have 2 very strong striking shooters. And I think apart from the depth across the line, that stands you in good stead under the pressure of this type of game. The only thing we can really go by, or I feel confident going by, is last weekend's matches. And I think if you look at those closely, you can sense a Sydney team that's really determined to be on its path to get hands around that Prime Minister's Cup. So I tilt that way slightly, but a great game.
Good one coming up. Contax against Sydney Electricity Hotshots, first quarter in just a moment.
And now love sick.
And we're underway in the first of the semi-finals. Adelaide Contax in the blue tops and Sydney in the jade.
Contact goalkeeper. Marks the shot.
Julie Nichol will be given possession back.
She'll have the first penalty of the match with Keely Devry standing beside.
Important for both sides to make a solid start, more so perhaps for Contax, who start as underdogs. And turnover, good to get one in early for Contax. Now Angove, O'Donnell.
And that matchup between O'Donnell and Darwood should be a great feature of the match, both vying for that #1 Australian centre position. Mythical position. I guess we've got a great depth. There's no #1, but they'd like to assert themselves in this match.
So we mentioned a couple of times in the opener that Contax won in the round robin matchup between these two. That was a game that wasn't televised, played in Melbourne, and Contax won it handsomely, 53-37. But there are a couple of things to consider about that, and who was playing and who wasn't.
Yes, well, Keely Devry injured, Carissa Darwood too, carrying a tear or a cork in that match. So Sydney perhaps not at full strength.
And now it comes out of the mid-court for Sydney. Cusack Kenny. Dalwood. Hand on it from Sutter, but Cusack picks up.
Good jump over the shot from Sutter.
One apiece, and nearly 2 minutes gone. Engove, Washington.
Michael doing well to slip round front position then on Devry and looking fairly comfortable on the shot for the first 2 of the match.
Michael, through the 7 lead-up games, averaged 71% accuracy, and Sarah Engo 55. Kenny. And easily brought down by Sutter. Kenny shot 69%, and Cusack, one of the best shooting stats in the Super League, 81%. Engove, Michael.
Great ball from Michael onto O'Donnell, and again she slips position.
You're offside.
But they don't find her, and it's an offside call, I believe.
Where you are.
It's a shame that they didn't pick her, because Michael made a nice break away from Finnan.
Great time for feeders to use that great peripheral vision, nice wide vision, because if you slip your head to look at one and take it off the other, you can miss a great position under the post.
Wing attack.
That's what happened then for Adelaide. But they've been able to thwart Sydney's
Where you are.
final attacking play. Sutter coming up with a couple of balls in the last line of defence. Good touch then from Dalwood. Sutter's height will prove very handy. She has a good reach over all
Play.
in that circle, and Devry, of course, the advantage down this end.
Contact.
Michael.
Pass or shot.
Finnan out of play. Engove with the rebound. Round and round and down. And 3-1 for Contax.
Advantage obstruction. Caught, dropped and replayed. Obstruction.
Is that?
Throw it in. Play. Play advantage contact, wing. It's advantage causing. Advantage contact. Throw in contact. Hey! Electricity. Advantage breaking, goal attack.
Harvey, Washington.
With contact wing defence, penalty pass.
Cusack, and about time, 4-2. O'Donnell, Engove.
And I have to make a comment on the first few minutes. It's Adelaide that looks the more confident and penetrating of the two teams. They're flying through the mid-court. Sydney a little disorganised in their attack line. I guess Sydney feeling the pressure that they are hot favourites, and the expectation is for them to win.
Pass a shot where you are.
Michael, 5-2.
Sydney.
Devry caught wrong-footed on a couple of rebounds in that last set of quick hands from Ango onto Nyquil.
Kenny, Dalwood, and back. Well, it looked as though Cusack was going to get a top of the circle, but Kenny made himself available on the baseline. Last week I asked Kat Harvey what went right in that game where they thrashed Sydney in Melbourne. I said, oh, it was just one of those games where they couldn't do anything wrong, they'd like to bottle it. So there wasn't anything in particular. I mean, we've mentioned a couple of circumstances which were in their favour with the availability of players for Sydney, but Contax must have been hot that night.
Obstruction, goal attack.
And I suppose if they were to win this semi-final, it would be indirect revenge. And it wasn't this team that beat Contax in the final last year, but it was a Sydney team.
Yes, and Keely Devry, of course, playing in that team last year, but it was a Sutherland-based team, as you suggest, and this, of course, is a Randwick-based team from New South Wales. But Adelaide in the position of being bridesmaid the last 2 years, and they'd like to see that change.
Halfway through the first quarter, Contax up by 1.
Where you at? Play.
Cusack, long range, air ball, easy for Harvey. Quickly on to Neil, Washington. O'Donnell stops.
Over a third. Throw in. Goal line. Place. Play.
Keely Devry, the restart, Finnan.
Stepping. Free pass.
A step against Finnan.
Well, the luck not going Sydney's way. They've had a very rapid held ball early on in the quarter.
Contact. Penalty pass.
Stepping call, so there's been some turnovers that you wouldn't expect to come against Sydney in the form of held passes and footwork infringements.
Finnan. Harvey read it well.
And the backup too is the important thing. The intercepts are coming for Adelaide, but the backup from the mid-court, particularly in Washington, is strong for Adelaide Contax.
And heavy collision right in front of us between Harvey and Dalwood, both okay, I think.
Dalwood on the chase for the ball. Harvey too. Both eyes for the ball. The collision, a hard one.
Contact centre third.
Both players okay.
Play.
Looks safe with advertising hoardings on the side of the court.
Wing attack.
My shin's hurting.
Hind, Brunelli.
Timing not there for Sydney. You could see then the lead was too soon. Brunelli going backwards rather than the offload to Dalwood, so not quite clicking for them. They're still right in the game, only one the difference, but it's not sweet for Sydney.
Kenny. That pass from Cusack was sweet enough, if not the shot from Kenny. And contact against Cusack.
Play advantage, contact, goal attack, obstruction, advantage.
Contact.
Quick
goal
hands
attack.
from Washington.
Penalty
Contact
pass.
against Kenny.
Where you at?
Ango.
Advantage
Washington.
offside.
O'Donnell run into by Hind. But the call goes the other way from Jan Cross. Jan Cross and Chris Burton officiating in this one.
That was never on then. Finnan had eyes only for Kenny. Didn't see the whole picture. Sutter, though, was watching and she'll have it.
Contact goal defence.
Good, strong defensive opening from Contax.
Advantage moving too soon.
Low scoring first quarter.
Obstruction. Goal score.
Nyquil puts Adelaide out by 2.
It's advantage breaking.
Another Sydney player wipes the floor. This time their skipper Susie Kenny. And Steve, you're right, a very low scoring quarter.
Nyquil. There've been a lot of turnovers and not such great accuracy
You're out of court.
at the post.
Throw in. This side of the post.
Carol Sykes and Joanne Kenny on the Sydney bench.
Carol said to me before the game that the players were nervous,
wing attack.
and she reminded them, well, your nerves will go after 5 minutes. I'm stuck with them until the end. And that's how she looks, a little tense in there.
Kenny. It's a lovely sweep to the baseline, and in and out. Cusack.
Well, Kenny's so well on target last week. They're not quite dropping yet for her, but Cusack will finish it off. And while the goals might not be dropping, the moves from Kenny are beautiful, particularly the speed on the finish of the move.
Spilled out of court off Dalwood. Sutter.
Sutter and Harvey proving very effective at the start of this match.
Contact, shooter.
It's Cusack, and intercepted by Dalwood. Saw it coming, plucked it out of the hands of Vicky Neal. Brunelli.
Again, Catherine Harvey, but she can't keep it.
It's advantage offside.
And Kenny unmarked. 6 apiece. 2.5 minutes left in the quarter.
And Sutter with the outlet from the penalty, but Dalwood eats it. Strong onto the ball. The quick offload to Cusack. They'll work it around. Cusack, and again, quick hands. Kenny to pick up the crumbs, and a great shot.
Maybe time for one more from Sydney. We're tied up at 8-all.
Nicole Cusack had the circle to herself then and did a nice move on Sutter, but Sydney are not confident to put the long ball in.
Well, Sue Kenny should be after the last shot. That one not as sweetly through, but it counts for as many.
Contact, penalty pass. Where you are. Contact, goal defence. Pass or
Still
shot
no
just
sign of the
inside the
timetable,
circle.
but where? Oh yes, there is. She's up. And Michael timed that one well with about 2 seconds to spare. First quarter in which defence surely dominated, and at quarter time, Contax lead at 9-8 over Sydney Electricity Hotshots.
And now love.
Second quarter begins, and no one ought to be too proud of those shooting stats from the first end.
No, unusual to see all 4 shooters on court dropped below 70%, and so few shooting opportunities for them. Sydney Electricity 3 from 5 and 5 from 8 for Susie Kenny, who came through strongly at the end but still sits on 63%. Only 13 chances for them though. And Julie Nykel 8 from 14. She's got 57%, but she's the one doing the scoring work. Angove 1 from 3, 33% for the first quarter.
Sue Kenny put through the first shot of this second quarter. So we're 9-all. Brunelli. Held ball, indeed. It was very healthy 3 seconds and eventually pulled up by Jan Cross. There's certainly no question from the players. If the pressure of the defence in the first quarter continues, might see a couple more. There's the black armbands on the Adelaide players' hand.
Yes, our viewers may have noticed them in a couple of the close-ups. Adelaide struggling with a personal loss in their camp. A supporter of the Contax club, only 14, Jackie Townsend, has been battling cancer for a while now. Actually sits on the bench with the girls in a lot of their games. She passed away during the week, so the Contax team, I guess, digging deep for Jackie in this match.
Keely Devery intercepts. Actually came off a Sydney hand on the way, made it easy for her. Kenny.
Sutter marking that move well of Nikki Cusack's.
That's on.
Short pass called by Jan Cross. Harvey. Angove, O'Donnell.
The last couple of calls too are testimony to how hard the defence is working out there. A short pass and a held ball are indicative of the pressure that Contax are mounting on the Sydney side.
Michael. Devery.
And that's a more confident rebound from Keely. She's missed a couple in the first, but strong on that one. If Nykel's going to drop them short, you can rest assured Devery will be up there.
Offside, goalkeeper. Centre third, free pass.
Behind Dalwood.
Contact, penalty pass.
Ball against O'Donnell.
Contact. Pass or shot. Where you are.
Cusack.
Sydney.
We've had over 2.5 minutes of play and only 2 goals added in this second quarter.
And
Obstruction goal attack.
I was going to say, if there wasn't a call then, it was footwork, so the obstruction, of course, overruling that infringement. Brunelli under pressure one way or the other, and that's the first time Sydney has hit the lead.
Cusack.
Contact goalkeeper. Pass the shot.
Contact against Sutter. Doesn't like it much. A weak shot from Kenny.
Sydney throw in. This side. Play.
Kenny again.
Vardy
Neil.
contact.
O'Donnell. Michael.
Contact, goal
I think
defender.
in these 2 semi-finals, Anne, we'll see all but perhaps one of the Australian players. Vicky Wilson, of course, from Brisbane, won't be on court, but chance again for Joyce Brown to assess the form as we near the test against Jamaica.
Yes, only 2 weeks till final selections for the 1993 national team, and they'll be choosing 10 to represent Australia in that series against Jamaica and 12 to go to the Netherlands shortly thereafter to play in the World Games. So yes, as you say, they're all on show. That's been the beauty of this new format. It's allowed us to have access as spectators to the depth of Australian netball by seeing all squad members participate.
It's advantage offside centre.
Hine picks it up. Finnan, Brunelli, Dalwood. Sydney just cruising down court. Shot's not there though. Harvey. Neil.
Offside, wing attack.
Joyce Brown has come up from Melbourne to watch these semis and the final. O'Donnell.
There's not too much space in attack for either team. The defence is furious. Contact call against Nykel goes Sydney's way.
Dalwood to Finnan. Kenny was screaming for it. Found herself in space, but didn't go that way.
You can just see there the congestion across the transverse line as players bid for the ball. If the timing's not spot on, they find themselves running out of room. The backup move has to be timed beautifully to save them.
Jumped in from out of court to free pass. Centre.
So for Adelaide, Vicky Neal. Harvey, Washington. O'Donnell looks for somebody, and under pressure, it goes out.
And O'Donnell needed to be able to receive that and dig at the top to let the shooters organise themselves.
Finn and Kenny, and again the error. Just Brunelli came forward, the pass went over it.
Well, I was about to say that's probably the first time in the match we've seen the mid-court open and Finnan able to get a clear run through, but she misread Brunelli's move.
Obstruction. Both players out.
We've got a game on our hands here. This is great work from both teams.
Neil. Washington. Seen a number of games in the Super League where both teams reach 50 goals or more. I don't think this is going to be one of them. So good as their defence. Pressure on the shooters, strong rebounding at both ends. Finnan, Dalwood, Cusack. Kenny. Harvey.
Well, Harvey working beautifully on the rebounds, just lost the legs to get to that one.
Well, it was her ball if she'd kept her feet. It was unlucky. 3 goals in 7 minutes in this quarter.
A bit like State of Origin.
Goal attack, pushing from behind.
Sutter, Harvey. Washington. Talking to Keely Devery during the week, who's played in 2 world tournaments and as many nationals as you'd like to think. Even she said she was particularly nervous this week. Couldn't say why, but just was.
I think it comes with the expectations placed on the Sydney lineup. They carry so many national players that people assume the win and don't give them credit for how hard they have to work. And although Contax has less national representatives, it's a very balanced line and it's performing extremely well.
Michael shakes her head, thought she had fair go at that ball. Most stood and watched. Darwood finally picked it up as it was heading out. Here she is again.
Great pass. Cusack holding the balance well.
Sydney hit the front.
This is a touch of Hot Shots magic. She'll offload to Darwood. The fast break comes and great timing from Darwood and the balance from Cusack.
Great pass.
Another step call.
What I see starting to happen is Nykel
Contact.
exiting
Penalty
the
pass.
game more and more as it progresses. If they can't find Nykel, Contax will have trouble. And at the moment, she's under increasing pressure from Devry. The start was good, but it's just sliding at the moment.
Washington. Nykel, it spills out of her hands. Hind picks it up. Oh, big drive from Sydney. Brunelli.
Advantage obstruction, wing defence. Advantage
Darwood
offside.
to Cusack.
Well,
Beautiful.
the step on from Cusack, but Contax can't smother. Brunelli, Finnan, strong ball finds Cusack, and again she puts on the speed. Brunelli holds it up. Kenny will shift it till they find Cusack, and a little step to draw close.
Sydney stepping it up a gear. They've worked the turnover at the other end, but comes to naught. Under 6 minutes left
Where you are.
in the second quarter. Harvey to Neal. The Contax need one here. Washington.
The problem for them is that the congestion around the top of the circle isn't making it easy for them to find Nykel. She's putting on lots of small moves. They're all a little early and they need an open pathway to her.
She did well to keep the ball in there. Hind.
Contact goal attack.
Angove late. She sensed the ball was crossing court but couldn't get to it in time.
Cusack.
Obstruction. Pass a shot. Where you are.
It's advantage breaking.
Sydney have scored the last three. Doesn't sound much, but in this game it is.
Offside. Free pass.
They've certainly had the advantage in terms of possession. In their circle, they've had about 10 scoring opportunities as opposed to only 4 for Contact. So the ball not reaching Contact shooters.
O'Donnell. Washington.
This is where they need to leave the goal pathway open. They found Nykel easier then. When they play the sides, they're far more effective. It's their normal format.
This time they're helped to the circle by an obstruction. But still can't finish. Kept in by Gillian Hind. Kenny. Brunelli on this side. Well, it deserved a goal after great balance and hands from Gillian Hind. Now they're up by 4.
Gillian Hind, magnificent work. Washington thought she'd done enough, but Hind's too athletic, and quickly they're down court. Brunelli will find Kenny over the top.
It's advantage breaking. Wing attack.
Contax have scored one at the other end, 14-11. 3:30 left in the quarter.
Great timing from Kenny to hold that pass up to the last minute. She just found Cusack popping out on the break.
Harvey. Angove. Nykel. Doesn't usually shoot from that range, but put it up quickly and accurately. Only trailed by 2 or 3.
Contact.
2 it is.
Pass.
Just a little confusion on 3. Sorry, confusion on the scoreboard here. It's been worked out. Harvey.
Harvey's workload incredible in this match. She's there for the rebounds and putting the attacking drive on through the middle for them as well, but not finishing in the second quarter. It's breaking down for Contax as soon as they hit the top of the circle. Good touch though then from O'Donnell.
Low advantage, Contax, centre.
7-3, Sydney lead the quarter.
Good reach from Sutter. Gets the touch and forces a throw in, so she disrupts the Sydney approach play.
Play.
Brunelli, Kenny. One, two, three, and one off Sutter. And Kenny there for the rebound.
Well, we had great access in through our camera shots to see just how hard Nicole Cusack had to work for that whole movement to eventually get the ball. Sutter really making life difficult for her.
Sydney by 4 again. Minute and a half to a long break. O'Donnell.
And they close off Nichol again. Great work, Devery.
Ended up 2-on-1 once the lob pass came. Finnan.
Contact, goal attack.
Dalwood. Kenny. Via Brunelli. Now Dalwood. Cusack.
Good reach from Sutter. She'll collect the rebound as a result of her hard work over the shot.
Washington.
Now Angove really needs to work Finnan because Finnan's relaxing off her, sacrificing her to help put the pressure on Nichol.
Nichol off the hands of Devery. She could take even a little more time over the shot. I know she's a quick shooter anyway, but they seem to be going up too quickly even for her.
Brilliant work from Harvey to pull another one in to give them a chance.
Angove wants a goal in the last 30 seconds or so.
I'm sure she'd be concerned about her shooter, Julie Nichol. Firstly, the lack of ball she's had, and second, the inability to convert those she's had.
16-13 looks more like a quarter-time score than a half-time one. Shelley O'Donnell is down.
Where you are.
And did not fall easily.
And Shelley O'Donnell, the Adelaide Contact Centre, down 7-2.
Kenny with a chance to slot another one in just before half-time.
Contact, goal shooter.
Contact against Cusack. Washington.
The ball.
And in the mid-court is where it finishes in that second quarter. And well, Sydney's starting to dominate, but again, it's very tight. Defence is still dominating. 16-13, Sydney leading Contax at half-time.
And now, Lux.
16-13, Sydney lead it. And no wonder we've been talking about defence all game, Anne.
Yes, I think the stats are a credit to the defenders. They're very low for this level netball. Nothing above 60, and Nicole Cusack can claim that stat with 6 from 10. Susie Kenny dropping down to 25% for the quarter with 2 from 8. And if we look at Adelaide Contax, not too much joy there. Julie Nichol, who's their main striker, down to 4 from 9, so she's struggling at 44%. And 0% for Sarah Angove, none from 1.
Contact, goal defence. Penalty pass.
I don't think we'll dwell on that.
So 9-8, Contax won the first quarter. 8-4, Sydney won the second. Angove.
Good jump from Devery. Second.
Ball.
Held ball. She's pulled a good call from Jan Cross.
Finnan. Dalwood. Brunelli. Kenny, good stretch. Great
There's
hands.
a nice hook from Susie Kenny, just showing people how much you've got to work the fingers at training.
A bit of water polo on that catch.
Well, she's surrounded by good water polo players. Actually, it's Nikki Cusack with the background in water polo.
The Oberman boys are around netball. More of that some other time. O'Donnell, Neal. And go into the corner for Washington.
And that's more the play Adelaide like, using that area deep into the corners and freeing Nichol. Devery working the side on Nichol's shot, particularly when she has a quick time to recover. She's working really well short over the ball rather than getting right round to the front of the shot.
Angove takes the corner this time.
Contact, goal shooter.
Use of shoulder against Nykel gives Devry another one. Just having a fine game.
Brunelli. Kenny.
Contact.
Had to come over Harvey, and it drew the contact from the Contax skipper. Cusack. Sydney's first for the quarter. Kenny. Dalwood. Oh, Kenny too quick. Picks up Cusack at the post. And they've got the 3-goal lead back. Washington back to Neil. O'Donnell now. Washington. It's hard work getting it in there. Now Nykel has it.
Angove not prepared to offer a move. More set to put the screen up so they find Nykel.
Dalwood for Brunelli. And he just moved away from the pass. A little misunderstanding there.
Contact. Goal attack. You're holding.
Sue Kenny's been picked up by Chris Burton on the far side there.
Wing attacker. Hold it till she's beside.
Well, the two wing attacks finding each other. Washington out of play.
Kenny.
Harvey saw that coming. She saw the parallel drive from Dalwood. Too quick.
Advantage offside, wing defence.
Nykel gets out court to get back in.
Advantage offside, wing defence.
Nykel lacking the mobility. Devry did well to get around her. It's twice she's disrupted the feed to Nykel.
But Ango finishes off. Contax to trail only by one. And they're in possession again. Ango.
Advantage offside, goal attack.
And how often we've said Ango working as the third feeder to find Nykel. She's only put up 2 shots in the game, so they're operating the same way again in this match. But quick hands weren't matched by Nykel's move then. And you may be wondering, Finnan chose to step on into the hands then. Angove had appropriate distance from the first landed foot.
Advantage offside, centre.
Nykel, long range shot. Finnan, the second grab. Kenny, Dalwood.
Keeper, leg.
Sutter out of play. Cusack.
Dalwood quick to offload to Brunelli, and she gets the drive to the top of the circle. Great work from the Sydney centre. The offload to Cusack.
Throw it in. Play.
Adelaide's ball. After a fumble from Sydney. Washington.
Advantage offside.
And again, they can't find Nykel easily. Devry working overtime. She's got front position now.
And Devry had floor position.
She works part-time as a caretaker for a Homebridge Stadium.
It's advantage breaking. Goal attack.
Washington. Angove. Contax are leading this quarter, 5-3. It's a little more free scoring than the first two. Nykel.
It really lies with Nykel for Adelaide. She's got to find the net.
If Angove is going to come into the game, those shots will certainly help.
Angove has to attempt the shots. That way she will entertain Finnan and keep her occupied, freeing Nykel a little bit. If she stays out of the game, Finnan will sit back and help Devry.
It's defenders at either end of the court that are playing their socks off, though. Harvey for Contax and Devry for Sydney.
Throw in. Came off goal defence's foot.
19 apiece. Carol Sykes said she'd be nervous all game. If the score stays this close, she'll be in pieces.
Penalty pass.
Who'd be a coach, Anne?
Look at me, I aspire to keep it up. Then I'm not that sane either.
Pass or shot.
A few whistles going up. There's a minor dispute about the call. Anyway, Nykel.
Don't confuse Devry slapping her hands together with applauding the decision.
It's advantage breaking.
Ango. And Finnan is called a knock on the nose.
Time.
Earl Sykes.
Where you are.
Dalwood restarts. Gillian Hine. Contax by 1. 7.5 minutes left in this quarter, so we're halfway through it. Kenny.
Oh, good word, Harvey, to block out Cusack. And again, she gets the touch. Great speed, Catherine Harvey. Well, put that all down to Catherine Harvey. She was everywhere. She's in fine form, really pressing for a place in the national team.
Still leading the player of the series competition.
Yeah, Lisa Wilson trying to catch it. She's within 1 point. I think Harvey on 12, Wilson on 11.
Dalwood. Brunelli. Kenny. Sydney crowd urging an equalising goal out of their side. Sutter did well.
Well, Dalwood had been screaming for the next pass. Sutter, in effect, deflected it to her. Sutter gets a touch, but Dalwood picks up the crumbs, and the high ball will find Cusack under the post.
Sydney now with a chance to retake the lead. Haven't seen it for a good while now. Kenny.
Kenny really pushing her way through then. She looked like she'd had enough of the body on court and was determined to get a space, but Burton won't allow it. It's a physical game.
Washington looks for O'Donnell. Dalwood quickest.
Throw in.
Contax throw in.
Play.
Well, that was one of the first times Nykel had clear back position and she was feedable, but they didn't sight her.
Now Harvey swept way down court looking for the intercept, so she left it side short of numbers there for a moment, and Sydney capitalised. She got back in a hurry, but not quite quickly enough.
And the touch from Dalwood ends up with Hine, and they're quick to outlet. Harvey down trying to disrupt it, but Kenny quick hands onto Cusack, and Cusack will finish.
Shelley O'Donnell has suddenly left the court and will be replaced by Audine Cobb. Audine Cobb gets her first touch.
This is a huge test for Audine Cobb. She's a youngster. She has entered the court during this series for Contax previously, again under the pressure of a losing match at three-quarter time. But a tough ask of the youngster.
Well, she's only 17, as Nykel, again, it looks and won't drop for her.
Play.
Under a minute on the board.
Kick. Free pass. Free pass.
A kick.
Well, that was viewed as a deliberate kick from Finnan.
Offside. Centre.
There's nice footwork.
Great shot, though, from Ango. She's on the board in this third quarter, 4 from 5.
Cusack. Oh, brilliant goal, Sue Kenny. Falling out of court. Great composure.
Well, the time is up, so Contax will look straight to the circle. Contact ruling spoils that for Washington. Sydney will be in no rush.
And time is in fact flown. And although Contax trailed by the 1, it was a quarter which they did win. So it's all set up beautifully for the final quarter of this first semi-final. Sydney lead at 25-24.
And now love.
Final quarter begins, and the shooting stats are picking up a little, and
Yes, the urgency of the game is lifting all on court. They've lifted the stats. Possession lies with Contax for that third quarter, but the accuracy is lifted. Nikki Cusack with 7 from 9, fine form, 78%. Susie Kenny lifting up to 40%. And for Adelaide, 7 from 12 for Julie Nykel, 58%. Sarah Angove entering the game in the shooting role, in particular, 4 from 5 with 80%.
Michael puts the first one in for Contax. And saw Shirley O'Donnell during the break getting attention to the top of the hamstring. I'll be very surprised if she reappears. Should they win the game, I hope she'd be right for the final.
Well, great backup from Sydney then. It looked to all intents and purposes like Darwood was on a wild goose chase. She gathered, kept it in, and Cusack backed it up. But footwork against them gives it back to Contax.
Harvey. Washington. And back.
It's advantage obstruction.
Michael.
It's advantage.
What a memorable game it would be for Audine Cobb if she is part of a winning Contact side here.
Contact set, penalty pass.
Boy, she's really been thrown into it, having to replace an Australian player. Here she is with it now.
Brilliant work from Harvey, but into the hands of Gillian Hind.
Dalwood. Kenny.
Well, that was great movement from Cusack. She put the fast break on the base and split up the defence, but Sutter gets a desperate hand to it.
Play.
Again, strong movement from Cusack. Little slip on the take, though. Not regarded as a replay. But that's a rebound.
Followed it in well. .26 all, and if it's a draw at full time, we play extra time, 2 periods of 7 minutes. Washington. Finnan, a hand on it. Angove let it go. Great shot, Sarah Angove.
That's taking responsibility for shooting. And brilliant shot from Angove. Harvey working the pressure on Kenny so well.
Harvey loses a footing, makes it easier for the goalers. But what a great shot from Kenny. Sydney need an intercept or a rebound. Washington.
Michael smothered by Devery.
Angove out of play.
And this could be the turnover Sydney's looking for.
And all the way down court, you can bet Contax will pressure them. Finnan. Nice move, Brunelli on Neal. Dalwood quickly to Cusack.
Obstruction. Pass a shot.
There it is. Sydney in front.
And this is the turnover for Sydney. Finnan flying through the midcourt. She'll find Brunelli. Darwood with great position at the top of the circle and quick hands to Cusack.
And Cusack's lucky to get it back off Adelaide hands. And suddenly Sydney by 2. Can they bring it home? Michael. Contact against Finnan.
That was a rush shot. I know she has a fast shooting pace, but for a penalty at a crucial time in the game, she really rushed that shot through.
Just a couple of times during the match, Julie's looked a little quick on the release. Kenny.
Well, speed from Sydney, a feature of that play. Cusack working so well.
Kath Harvey threw her head back. She knew she'd been clumsy in the challenge. Had to be a call against her, so Cusack's shot. 7 minutes to go, Sydney by 3. Straight to Sutter now, Neal. It might be the lowest scoring but most entertaining game we've had. You don't need goals when you've got defence of this calibre, Anne, to make it a great game.
No, it's a superb game, and as we said earlier, the players having to work for every spare inch on court. It's so closely defended.
Oh, Dalwood. Well, she's the Australian centre. Finnan. Cusack to Kenny. Sutter, tallest player in the circle, should win a lot of those rebounds and has been doing so.
Washington with a nice drive to the circle. Important shot for Nichol.
Went up nearly as quickly, but it was a better shot.
Washington on to Angove. Nice drive, finds her on the circle, and she'll find Nichol.
Harvey, Cobb. Nichol. It seems recently they either drop straight through for Nichol or they miss badly.
Jostling for position, Nichol and Devery, but the shot will drop.
Cusack.
Vantage contact, wing defence.
Oh, Sutter was at her feet. Cusack couldn't find it. Angove, Cobb.
Sydney caught out of position. Their eyes were further down court. They catch up now. Pressure on the pass.
Obstruction, goal defender.
Thin and out. There'll be two shooters in the circle. Devery with her hands full.
They go straight for Nichol.
No surprises with that. And it's level again. And it's an Adelaide centre.
Harvey. Contax finishing strongly in front of the Sydney crowd. We've got so much to play for here.
Devery caught. She saw the look to the feet and she went out to have a go. It left Nichol unmarked.
3 minutes 20 left. Contax by 1. Cusack.
Great ball from Kenny.
The timing here of the last minute is going to be crucial. With Sydney in chase mode.
Yes, we've gone back to the situation where now after levelling, Adelaide will take the centre pass. There's a chance.
Devery to Hind. Devery at one end and Sutter at the other have pulled in so many rebounds. And Harvey's had a really strong game as well.
Now it's Contax turn to have one defender out and a 2-on-1 in the circle.
Cusack from long range.
And they've got the centre to follow. It's a chance to split it to 2. Keep reminding myself this is the semi-final. We've still got a final to go through.
Where you at?
Well, the other two semi-finalists will be pleased that Sydney and Contax are giving each other such a workout here. Cusack.
Contact. Where you at?
That may do it. Little over 2 minutes to go. Adelaide have to score quickly. And work the turnover. Nichol. She's done her part. Now the defenders have to step in.
Nichol coming home with 10 from 15. Cusack with 9 from 11. So the two shooters doing all they can to put it through.
It was a beautiful pass to Kenny between two defenders. Sydney by 2, a touch over a minute and a half left. Dalwood forces it out. Time is on Sydney's side.
And Cobb, by looking elsewhere, thought she'd put it back into Nichol, but Devery not fooled then.
Dalwood. Kenny.
That'll do it.
She took a deep breath, looked very composed over the shot. Sydney by 3 now. They should be home. Brunelli. And the contact against Harvey. Well, right down to the last couple of minutes, this was anyone's. Sutter, Neal. Down by 3 and a loose pass. The cheer from the Sydney crowd as they realise their team should be home now. Finnan. Contact still contesting everything. 30 seconds to go.
The throw-in will go Contax's way. But it's going to be more wishful thinking than anything for the Blues.
Harvey.
They're trying the long balls, but they're not paying dividends.
Nichol.
Time is up.
38-36. timekeeper's on her feet. The side Jan cross bottom of the screen there. Devry holds on, slams the ball into the court in jubilation. Fitting that perhaps the ball should finish with her, one of the best on court. A game in which defence is dominated and in which we saw tremendous standard of netball. But the championship favourites, Sydney Electricity Hotshots, have got through by a very narrow margin. Contax, a great contest. 38-36 to Sydney. Sydney in the final. Well, I'm sure Sydney were expecting a close game, but they wouldn't have wanted it much closer than that. Anne Sargent is talking with Sue Kenny.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Susie Kenny, I'm exhausted watching. I appreciate how you must feel.
Yeah, so it was a very tiring game. I think Sydney got off to a slow start, but luckily we held on to it and won in the end.
Well, it was pretty ferocious out there. It was very much a body contact game.
Yes, it certainly was, and I think that's probably what not surprised us, but it took us a bit of time to get into it. And by the last quarter, you know, we're trying as hard as we could to go in for every ball, and we had to do that to maintain possession.
The other thing that was obvious, very little space on court for attacking moves.
Yes, that's right. Adelaide clogged up the middle third, and it was really hard for our attacking moves to come through, and I think it took us a bit of time to actually get used to it, but once we did, it was fine.
At any stage did you see yourselves facing defeat?
Yes, I think so, and in the third quarter and also in the last quarter, I think we sort of felt like we were going to win, but it was sort of going through our grasp, and then at the end I think we were just lucky enough to put it together, and our defence and Sharon and Keeley played really well.
Thanks very much, Anne. So we have one team through to the final, and we'll find out who their opponent is tomorrow. Adelaide Garval and Melbourne Pumas finish second and third on the table, and they meet in the other semi. You can catch that at 9 tomorrow morning. And again, from the State Sports Centre tomorrow afternoon at 6, the climax to the Mobil Super League season, with the final to decide the Prime Minister's Cup, and Mrs Keating will be presenting it. So 2 more top-notch games to come on ABC Sport tomorrow at 9 and 6. Hope you'll be with us. For the moment though, Steve Rebillard signing off from the State Sports Centre for ABC Sport.